This is Dolany TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. And today we're going to take a little bit different of an approach. I want to do something that I've been meaning to do for a while, right? A look at that 2018-2019 season, a look at our players and certain guys who really made a difference. And I mean, I had that planned right from about March 15th, but I never did it. And I'm totally fine with that because today it sets up an interesting little video we can do talking about the goaltending. And no, we're not talking about Mike Smith, how he's going to rebound, how he's going to fail. No. Breathe, exhale. We're not talking about next year. We're talking about last year. My goodness, your blood pressure just went up. I understand. No, I understand. But we're going to actually take a look, deep dive into Mikko Koskinen according to hockeyreference.com. This is going to be a fun one because I've packed a lot of stats in here and I'm looking forward to kind of maybe changing an opinion because realistically, you look at the numbers, they aren't per se as bad as we think they are, but they're also not as great as 3 years, $4.5 million, if you get where I'm going. There's a little bit of diciness when you get into the numbers there, and that's what I'll show you over the next 10-15-ish minutes, and we'll get into it right now. I'm going to duck my head out of the way here, move my neck, whatever the heck I have to do, move my hips, whatever I'm doing, and get you to Mikko Koskinen's stats. I've got lots of graphics. We'll go through them. I'll explain them as best I can, and we'll try and make sense of everything the Oilers possibly did with Mikko Koskinen last year. You look at him. 51 games started, 55 games played, 25 wins, 21 losses, 6 overtime or shootout failures. That's what they are. Realistically, they're up in the air gambles, right? 3-on-3 overtime shootout crapshoots. But the problem is they're failures because they're realistically, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, if you can't win it in 3-on-3 overtime with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, you've failed. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but you've failed. And do I need to remind you? Chris Russell back-to-back against Montreal and Philadelphia on the road. And Mr. Ryan Strome against Sidney Crosby in overtime. Those were 3 of them. Not necessarily Mikko Koskinen games. Maybe we'll find out they were. But you get where I'm going with it. It's not a good sign when you're doing that in overtime when you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I'm not saying you can run the horses all for 5 minutes, but it is what it is. So that's Mikko Koskinen in a nutshell. 25 wins, 21 losses, 6 overtime shootout losses, and then you've got a .906 save percentage and a .293 goals against average. Not stellar, not great, not okay, somewhere in the middle. It's all right. You know what? Mikko Koskinen readjusting to small ice, readjusting to NHL hockey. It could have gone a lot worse, honestly, and we saw that towards the end of the year, and I'll get into that with the stats. So let me get comfortable here. Let me remove that graphic. You've seen it. You understand it. You understand where we're going. Let's get on to Mikko Koskinen's first round of games here, in which he first started for the Oilers on October 27th. Todd McClellan, why? That's my only thing. Honestly, the Oilers started playing over in Sweden, I believe, what was it, October 6th? And it took 21 days for a goaltender who's making $2.5 million last year to get a start. If that ain't the most Oilers thing you ever heard. However, Mikko Koskinen did some incredible things, goes out there, gets a 3 goals against win against Nashville. Then plays Chicago, blanks them. Then plays Detroit, 3 goals against. Loses to Tampa, 5 goals against. Then Colorado, 1 goal against. Well, backup relief role, right? And then you've got Montreal, a win, 2 goals against. Calgary, 3 goals against. You're going to see a trend here. I'm saying 2-3-1-0 a lot in the next numbers here. Anaheim, San Jose, win, overtime loss, 3-2. And then you've got Dallas, the blank game. Well, that was the hitch 'em to death game. Guys, that was the crazy game that I believe we won in overtime that neither team was given a stitch because both teams were Ken Hitchcock-style teams. He's coached for both of them. Don't kid yourself. And then LA, that was another victory by Koskinen 2 nights later. 2 nights later, then it was a win against Vegas in a 1-goal effort. Lost to Dallas in a 3-goal effort. Then all of a sudden, Calgary, a shutout. What a beauty game that was. Colorado versus Edmonton, a 4-goal win. And then you've got the Philadelphia win at home, 12-14. And then you've got Vancouver's loss, 3-goal game. And then the 44 shots against, 886 save percentage, 5 goals against Tampa Bay. What are you going to do to stop them? What are you going to do to stop Tampa Bay? And then, well, 4 goals against to end the year against Vancouver and Winnipeg. Obviously, there are in those numbers from about, what was it, the Vancouver loss to the Winnipeg loss. That is where the defense fell apart, losing Clefbaum and losing Russell. I've already preached on that this offseason, that's where it went to crap. Because everybody, oh my God, panicked, can't play defense, can't do anything. We made dumb trades in hindsight. And, well, crap. What do? Mikko Koskinen gets hung out to dry. So that's the first sheet of games. I'll explain more. I'm not going to give you the record there because it's not useful till you get to the second sheet of games, in which Koskinen then bounces back, wins on January 2nd versus Arizona. 1 goal, 30 shot against, 29 save effort. Then you've got the LA loss, 3 goals there. San Jose lost, 3 goals there. And then you go the last 4 games before the extension. This is where it gets really fun if you're Mikko Koskinen, because all of a sudden you get into extension territory. And, well, a win against Buffalo, a win against Vancouver, easy nights, a tough night against Buffalo actually, but we pulled it out. And then you've got the loss to Calgary, a 5-goal effort, and then a loss to Carolina, a 3-goal effort. So if I've got my math right, and this is where I'm going to go explain, the extension came on, that's Hockey Reference, I want Mikko Koskinen's January 21st, 2019 extension. That's what we're talking. So, if my math is correct, I may be off by a game, I may be over by a game. Don't blame me. I mean, a lot of numbers, I threw them all there at you. You can tally at home. You've seen the math. You still see the math a little bit. 14, 10, and 1 at the time of his extension. That was Mikko Koskinen's NHL record. I could do the save percentage calculations and all that. That's way too silly numbers to be doing for a simple video like this. The magic number here, the save percentage, the goals against, what I'm looking at is he only, in those 25 decisions, a few more games as well because he was in a backup role to Talbot at that point, only allowed 6 games of 4 goals in that time. In those 4-goal games, it was Tampa times 2. Damn, that's a shocker. They averaged 4 goals a game every game of the season. Colorado, Calgary, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. You want to talk about top tier, offenses in the NHL this year? Well, let's, do I even need to do it? No, I don't. I don't need to explain that to you. Those were all very good offenses in the NHL this year. And you talk about where those games came with Clefbaum out of the lineup. Right? No. Bad. Ugly. So, do you blame Koskinen in those 6 games? I don't. But then we start turning the trend, and let's get over to the rest of it. Pre-extension or at time of extension, he had only happened twice on the road, allowing 4+ goals. That you can check there. Now simple. Those were a Colorado win and a Tampa Bay loss. Right? Well, then you've got, what does that leave you? 2 sub-800 save percentage games. In all his games played pre-extension, he only had 2 games below an 800 save percentage on his record after the final buzzer went. You kind of see where I'm going, right? All of a sudden, those numbers kind of make sense. Okay, 3 years, 4.5, still an overpayment. but you consider what we were getting out of Talbot the year previous and that year, and you look at it and you say, you know what? Maybe the Oilers had something in Mikko Koskinen at that point they felt investing in. Obviously, yes, okay, it still to this day smells of Peter Chiarelli screwing the Oilers. I will admit that. I will not deny that. But at the time, it was ugly because we all hated Peter Chiarelli, and anything coming out of the Oilers that had Chiarelli's fingerprints was going to be hated. That's the thing. So I'm trying to make it a little less smelly. It's still very smelly, don't get me wrong. But 3 years, 4.5, there was a lot of glimpses as to that being a very good signing. There were. Problem is, they get masked by the bad sightings of it being a bad signing. Now, let's go talk post-extension and carry on with this graphic number 2. You go to the game against Detroit, a 3-goal loss on the 22nd of January. He doesn't then play till February 3rd. Yes, the All-Star break's in there, but this is the Cam Talbot, got to get rid of him show all through February. He loses 4-goal effort against Montreal in overtime. Again, right there, a game the Oilers should have had. Now, you go to Chicago. Well, crap. Here you go. Chicago, 2 goals, and it's a loss. Welcome to the Oilers offense. But that's not the case. That's not the case. That's what you want to say. That's what I felt like saying. But you look at the saves and shots against, there was only 8 and 6. He didn't wear a decision because it was a backup role. Now, you get into it. He doesn't play again till February 13th. Well, it's a 2-goal, 33 shot against, 31 save loss. Welcome to the Oilers offense. Then against Carolina, 3-goal loss there on the 15th. Against New York, a 4-goal loss, but that was one of the few times in his career to that point he had played on back-to-back nights. Bound to happen. New York's offense, very good last year as well. Then you look at Arizona, shootout loss, crapshoot, whatever. Then you go, finally he wins against New York, a 3-goal win. And then you've got Anaheim, a 1-goal win. Okay, things were starting to trend back towards where we liked them. And then they kind of fell off the rails against, well, Nashville, shootout loss. And then, of course, you've got the Toronto game, the 4-goal loss there. The write-off that was, my goodness, what were we doing? And then, well, Ottawa, win. Columbus, win. The road trip started turning around for us. And then, well, go over to game 3 sheet. You've got a string. Well, you go back here to game number 2. He was on a 5-game winning streak at one point, was Mikko Koskinen. Wins against Buffalo, Vancouver, New York. Perfect. Everything's looking good. 3-2-2. Lots of saves, good save percentages. We're good. We're dandy. We're having a ball. Then, all of a sudden, this is where the train wreck towards the end of the season happened. But I'm going to sit here. And honestly, I think this was more finding the weaknesses in Koskinen's game. And this is to my point. This will always be to my point that by the time the Oilers got 7 points back of a playoff spot, when there was still a chance they could make a run at it, right? Obviously, I'm talking about March 13th. You know what? If you played your hearts out, you could do something. But instead they chose, we'll play for next year. And that will forever be one of my piss-off moments of the 2018-19 season. Pretty much all of March, after the 3 straight victories by Mikko Koskinen to start off the month, they mailed it in, and that was it. We saw it. It was disappointing. It was gross. It was just absolutely a terrible time to be an Oilers fan. And I understand that hurt carries into this offseason, and that's why we're all so petrified of what comes next. I understand it. You guys, I crap on you for it, but I understand it. I 100% get where you're going. Well, what do I need to say? Do you just want to look at those numbers? Just take a look. Do I need to explain them any further? I really don't feel I do. I really don't feel I do already 14 minutes into the video. It was a crap, poor, miserable time the rest of the year. Save for the 31 shot, 30 save starling of a night against Calgary. in which Connor McDavid was injured. 2018, 2019, in a nutshell. All right, then let's get to this very quickly because this is going to go for quite a while. Post-extension, this is Mikko Koskinen's breakdown similar to what I did at the time of extension. 9 games of 4+ goals. He played 28 games post-extension. So, almost 1/3 of his games were 4+ goal games. Remember, Oilers mailed it in. Mikko Koskinen's glove hand was weak. And Anthony Stoller's was a highly paid dress-up artist on the bench most of the time. Seriously. And, well, 11, 11, and 5. That's the record. So, you look at that. 9 games of 4+ goals. 11, 11, and 5. 500 hockey. 5 crapshoots. Well, crap. 4 sub-800 save percentage games. That's where it hurts. Right? You go from a 14-10-1 record in which there were only 2 sub-800 save percentage games to doubling that, adding 50% more 4+ goal games, a 500 record, and double the 800 save percentage below games. That's tough. So now I just want to point out a couple last key figures here with Mikko Koskinen. The splits. These are your splits, and this is where we go with it. Starting at the top, that's his total, that's his season. Now you start at the place, home and on the road. The reason I pointed out the road stats to start the year is because you look at the year in full, and he was a sub-500 goalie on the road, above 3 goals against average on the road, and a sub-800 save percentage. Guys, we all know what Mikko Koskinen did at home. Guys, dude was lit. Crazy. Okay, that's your stats. The problem is, look at these power play goals against, right? Start at the top. Power play goals against in terms of all goals against for the year. Mikko Koskinen, I'll do the math right here on my phone. 32 divided by 146. 22% of the goals Mikko Koskinen allowed in 2018-2019 were power play goals. He allowed 1 shorthanded goal. Okay, that headache aside, let's move on. Pre-All-Star break, post-All-Star break. This is again the Mikko Koskinen splits. 14-11, 1. 11-10, 5. Pretty much, I've already explained that to you. We've already touched that. That comes pretty much at the time extension, post-extension. Now, win, loss, well, and tie, which is your overtime shootout losses. In his 25 wins, Mikko Koskinen had a .942 save percentage, a .179 goals against average. In his losses, his 21 losses, he had 4.6 goals against average and an .855 save percentage. That's rough. That's rough. But we already did the math on that. And in the 6 shootout losses, overtime losses, Mikko Koskinen was above his average performance for the year in the 55 games played at .912 save percentage and a .255 goals against average. What that tells me is in those games, Mikko Koskinen, out of all 6 of them, when you average them up, deserved to win. The Oilers couldn't do it. Mikko Koskinen held his part of the bargain. That's 6 wins that Koskinen possibly could have had that were crapped away. So that's 6 more points for the Oilers that they possibly could have had. This is a stat I do not have. Let me get it for you. NHL standings. You guys so often like to talk how, oh my God, if we would have lost one more game, we would have drafted Capo Caco. That's ridiculousness, because who's to say in that parallel universe the balls were drawn the same. But 6 points for the Edmonton Oilers extra in those Mikko Koskinen wins, had they not been crapshoot losses in games he deserved to win via his stats, would have propelled us into 20th in the NHL, just ahead of Chicago. We would have been ahead of Anaheim, Vancouver, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and Chicago. All teams that we, except for Philadelphia, fought and died against at the end of the year. Now, similar to what I'm saying about you guys, that's my side of the story when I say what if. Dandy. Now, let's go split this up. In October, perfect. In November, great, 6-2. December, 4-5. That's why the contract started to smell, right? Obviously, December wasn't good. January wasn't good. February wasn't good. March was good. And, well, April was kind of decent. All around okay. Now, you go over here and you talk Eastern versus Western Conference. Mikko Koskinen was a worse goalie against the Eastern Conference. Now, that is skewed because I've already told you 5 goal games twice over against Tampa. I'm off it. I'm okay. Now, the division breakdown is very simple here. He was terrible against the Atlantic, Tampa. Now, Metropolitan, deadly, lights out, 909, 246, 5-5. Oilers deserved to do better, but they didn't want to do better. Now, against the Pacific, 11-8-2, 908, 283. There you go. Those are the numbers you can kind of point to. Everything else, average across the board. Realistically, the Atlantic killed them. Should have done better there, but it was Tampa. So, you see where I'm going. Now, Mikko Koskinen splits. This is where we get to have fun. This is the last split I'm going to show you, and we're going to get out of here with all this Mikko Koskinen junk filling our heads and no better for it. Against the Ducks, 271. Against Arizona, 164. Against Buffalo, 2.5. Against Calgary, 2.26. Carolina, 3.39. Stop me at any time when you say, holy crap, I remember how crappy the Oilers were that game. Against Chicago, 1.62. Against Colorado, 4.26. Again, Tampa, Colorado, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Calgary. Columbus, 0.5. Dallas, 1.6. Detroit, why in the heck did we struggle so badly against them? 3.07 goals against average. Los Angeles, 4.03. Man, those were games the Oilers just got run around. And then you've got Montreal, 2.98. Nashville, 2.43. And then you've got New Jersey. That's an anomaly, 7.31. Ignore it. New York, 3.48. New York Rangers, 1.98. Ottawa, 2.95. Again, we shouldn't have been that high. However, he won that game and lost one in overtime. Philadelphia, 1.0. Pittsburgh, 2.0. San Jose, 2.0. St. Louis, this is kind of that game you can kind of point to. St. Louis and San Jose. San Jose, 3.87. St. Louis, 7.0 goals against average. Tough right there, that's for sure. He played 25 minutes and 42 seconds that game, so he was pulled after 3 goals. Not necessarily that bad. Tampa Bay, this is the ugly one. We gave up 8 even strength goals, 2 power play goals to Tampa Bay in a 10 goal against season for Mikko Koskinen, in which he was a 5.03 goals against average. That is your lights out lightning stat right there. Toronto, he struggled mightily. Well, that was the game there. We all know the story. Don't need to talk about it. Another anomaly on the board. 3.36 against Vancouver, and against Vegas, 3.02. Now you talk about Winnipeg. Again, a very good team. No power play goals against in that game, but a 4.13 goals against average. There you go. That's the breakdown. So, after all this, I've given you absolutely stat by stat, team by team, split by split, day by day, pre-extension, post-extension, anything you can imagine when it comes to Mikko Koskinen, to realistically look at it, full frame of the picture, and make a judgment. What I want to hear right now is if you have stuck with me for 25 minutes and 44 seconds, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know, now that I've gone out of my way to fully educate you on Mikko Koskinen. This is absolutely everything statistically available on the internet without doing the craziest research on the planet on Mikko Koskinen. Guys, I'm Tyson. This is Stolen ATV. I will catch you maybe tomorrow if I have a voice left. I am up on out of here.